This video will cover steps to complete Access Module 7 SAM project. So starting with step 1, we want to open the Employees and Managers report, so we can just double click it to open it. And we want to change the view to layout view. So on our view list, we want to switch to layout view. And then we want to rename the report Employees and Managers. So we don't really want to rename the report, we want to rename the title. So I'm going to just click on the title, and I'm going to click in here. And I'm just going to type in Employees and Managers. Okay, so step 2, it wants us to, still with our report and layout view, it wants us to change the format property for the monthly salary field. So here's the monthly salary label, and then if I click right below it, I'm on the monthly salary field, or I could have just used the drop-down box on the property sheet. If your property sheet wasn't open already, you can go to your design tab and simply click on the property sheet. So once you're on the property sheet and on the format tab, the very first option is to format the field value. So we want to format that as currency. Alright, so with the Employees and Managers report still open in layout view, we want to add a subtotal that sums the monthly salary field values for each location and then adds a grand total for all locations. So I already have these selected, so now I can just go up here. I'm still in my design tab. I can go up here to the grouping and totals group, and I can just choose sum. And that gives us a sum total for each one of these groups of locations. All right, so step 4, we want to make the following updates. So we're just making changes to the label now. So the first label we want to change is employee first. So I'm just going to put a space in there and add name. Same thing with employee last. Put a space in there and put name. And then we want to, on the employee last name, and we can come over here to the property sheet and we can scroll through the list and find employee last name. And for some reason, let me just click here. Maybe because I wasn't looking for last, but on employee last name is the text box we're changing the can grow property. So again, we're on the format tab, and if you kind of scroll all the way almost to the bottom, you can see can grow, and we want to change no to yes. Okay. And the last thing we want to do for step 4 is resize the column headings and their text boxes so that all values are fully visible. So to do a heading and a text box, we can click the heading and then hold our control key and just click the field underneath. And we just want to move it over so that we see all of those values. And actually that one looks pretty good. Employee last name looks good. Title, I see. Let me grab both of these, and I actually resized this one without resizing the other one. So yeah, now I have them lined up. I want to just make that a little bigger, and then the monthly salary looks pretty good. So now I can see all of the information, all of the record information in each row. Okay, so now we want to switch to viewing the Employees and Managers report in design view. So I'm going to switch to design view, and we want to use a text control in the report footer to display the number of employees that appear in the report based on the employee ID field. So if we're adding an expression, the first thing we need to do is go to our design tab, and we want to add a text box. And it said we want to add that at about the 2-inch margin, or the 2-inch mark on the ruler. So in my text box, we want to type in number of employees. I'm going to delete that 9 out of there. And now I'm going to select this box and just move it over a little so I can see my other text box. And now I want to type in here my expression. So we want to use the count function. So I'm going to put equals, then I'm going to type in count. So remember, when we're using a function, we want to put in parentheses, but we also need to put our field in brackets. So put my bracket, and we wanted to use employee ID. We want to close that bracket, and then we want to close the parenthesis. Okay, so now we want to left align the number of employees label with the manager ID label. So I move that over a little bit, but now I'm going to move it back over to the right just a little so I can have it lined up with the manager ID. Okay, and then I want to just kind of straighten this one up a little bit. We wanted it at the 2-inch mark and kind of down just a little. So if you just want to move the control without moving the text box, remember you can just grab this gray box in the upper left hand corner. Alright, so now we want to change the border style for the text box to transparent. So here's our text box, and so we have it selected, so now we can go to our format tab, and in our control formatting, we shape outline, we just want to change that to transparent. Okay, so step 6. So we still have this report open in design view, so we want to make a few updates. So in the location footer, we want to move the subtotal of the monthly salary text box control. So report footer, the monthly salary text box control, down so that its top edge is approximately in the second row of the grid dots. So right now it's up pretty high, so I'm just going to move it down so that we can actually see one row of grid dots above it. And it says we may need to increase the height of the footer, so I'm just going to drop that down just a little bit. Now we want to draw a line above the subtotal of the monthly salary text box. So to do that, we want to go to the Design tab, click on our controls, and then we can just click and just make it a little wider based on the size of our text box. So I went a little too far, so I think that's about right. Alright, so in the report footer section, we want to move the grand total of the monthly salary text box down so that its top edge is approximately in the second row. So actually, I think I did the grand total already. So I'm going to jump up here and do the sum here. So I'm going to take that edge down a little bit so I can see it. And again, I want to drag this down so that I can see that top row of grid lines. And I want to draw a line above that grand total. So again, just putting that line in there, making it just a little longer. Now a little shorter. Okay, so that's about right. Okay. So on to step E. So we want to align the lines in the text box controls below them on their right sides and make sure their lengths are approximately equal. So if you want to look at figure 1 on the first page, that kind of gives you an idea of what that should look like. And so it actually looks like I should have my monthly salary just more like at the little smaller. So I'm going to select that text box, and I want to take it, just almost to 8.5. And I also want to do the monthly salary above, and then the label. And then I need to resize this line. So that kind of looks like figure 1. And then let's see. Alright, it looks like we need to move and I might have missed this step, but it looks like the page number is lined up with the totals. So I'm just going to pick that up and move it over to, just take it up a little notch. And then it kind of looks like I have everything close to lined up with maybe the 9.5, just a little farther out than the 9.5 inch mark. So looks pretty close. All right, so the next thing we want to do is remove the alternate back color from all sections of the report. So sometimes it's hard to figure out which section has the back color, so typically what I do is I just click on each section. If I have the option to change it, I do, and if I don't, I just know I need to go to the next section. So here when I get to the detail section, I can see that I can change it. When I get to the location name, I can change it, and the footer gives me the option to change it, and then no option on the report footer. So I've got all of that changed, and so step 8, we want to, still in design view, we want to right align the page number. So I jumped ahead. I already right aligned the page number, so we can go ahead and skip that step. Alright, so now we just simply want to switch to report view and just kind of make sure our report looks like the figure on page, or figure 4 on the next page. And I think maybe that's not the right figure. No, I'm sorry, it's figure 3 on the previous page. And it kind of looks like these reports look like that. So no, that's not the right one either. So I don't guess there's an example of this report, but this looks pretty good. Okay, so we can go ahead and close this, and I'm going to save my changes. And the next step, we want to create mailing labels. So the first thing we want to do is we want to base this on the client table. So I'm just going to go ahead and click the client table. I'm not going to open it. I just want to click it so Access knows that I want to base my labels on that table. I'm going to click Create, and now I'm going to Labels in the Reports group. And I want to use Avery C2160. So C2160 and Avery are already chosen. If they're not on yours, you'll want to, scroll through until you find those. Click Next, and then we want to change our font type to Courier, our font size to 12. We want our font weight normal, and our font color, we want to use that black basic color. So click OK. And we do not want to italicize or underline, so we can click Next. Now we can create our prototype. So when we're creating an address label, we just want to put our fields in the logical order for that. So it would be client first name. We want to put a space in there, then client last name. And I'm going to hit the Enter key to go to the next line, then address, Enter key again. So I want city. I'm going to put a comma in there and a space. State, space, and zip. So this is what your label should look like. And so we'll go ahead and click Next. And it's asking us what we want to sort those by. So sometimes, particularly if you have a large mailing, you need to have those sorted before you take them to the post office. So we're going to do that by zip code and then by last name. And we'll go ahead and click Next. And here we can name our table, and we want to call this table Report or RPT Clients Mailing Labels. And then we want to go ahead and finish it. And it's going to give us a preview, and those look like really nice labels. So, alright, so we can go ahead and close this. And we can go ahead and close that report table or report window. Alright, so now for step 10, we want to create a blank report. So I'm going to the Create tab, I'm going to Blank Report, and it tells us we want to, for the record source for this report, we want to use the query or the billing query. So what we want to do is we want to click on our property sheet for our report, and on our data tab, we will, on the very first option under data tab, on the data tab, we can choose our record source, and we want to base this one on the billing query. So that's the very first option. And now we can add our fields. So we can actually click on add existing fields, and then we can choose our field list. But before we do that, let's go ahead and save this, and we want to name it billing by trainer. So RPT and then billing by trainer, and then click OK. All right, so now we want to choose our fields for this report. And so the first field we want to choose is trainer ID. And then we want to choose first, last, client ID, client first, client last, sessions, and amount. And I just double click those to select them. All right, so next it tells us to remove all labels and controls from the control layout. And so we want to move on to step C because we'll do some stuff with the labels and the controls later in the project. So we want to use the trainer ID field as a grouping field. And we want to set the keep together property so that the whole group is together on one page. So what we want to do is we want to, on our design tab, we want to go to the grouping and totals, and we want to click on grouping and sort. And we want to add a group. So we want to base that group on the trainer ID. So I'm going to select trainer ID. And then we want to make sure that we set it. So we want to click on more, and we want to set it so that we keep our information together on one page. And so now we want to add a subtotal for each trainer. So now we can just click on our amount or our amount field, and again on the design tab we can go up to totals and click on sum, and that's going to give us a sum for each trainer, and then it's going to give us a grand total. But there is one more step. It gives us a hint. Remember to check the show total in the group footer. So we got to come back down here to our trainer ID and click on more again. And we want to click on with amount totaled, and we want to check that show subtotal in group footer. Okay, so now it wants us to delete the trainer ID control and label from the report. So if I scroll back up here, I have the trainer ID label, so I'm going to delete it, and I want to delete the control. And then I'm also going to delete these subtotals here. And whoa, undo there. So that's all I want to do here. I was thinking I could move these lines. Okay, so if you click on that line there and click delete, that's actually going to move everything over a column, and we are supposed to do that. So if you go ahead and just click, I don't know if you could see the faint total lines, but we wanted to delete those out. So, all right, so now we want to use the last field as a sort field in ascending order. So again, we want to add a sort. So again, we want to come down here to the bottom, and we want to click on add sort, and we want to sort by last name. And you know, by default it's in ascending order, so we don't need to change anything else. So now we want to save the report. And step 12, we want to view the billing report by trainer in design view. So right now we're in layout view, so we're going to switch to design view. And we're going to complete the following steps. So it wants us to select all controls and labels in the report as a group and move the controls until the left edge is in the first text box in the details section, which We actually did that on the previous page when I deleted that column and it moved everything over, so we technically do not have to do anything on this step. And we want to drag the right edge of the report to approximately the 7.5-inch mark. So I'm just going to drag that right edge to the 7.5-inch mark and move on to step 13. So with the report billing by trainer still open in design view, we're going to make the following updates. We're going to move the first and last name text control boxes into the trainer ID header. So we have the last and the first. So we want to click on arrange and we want to just move those up. So move the first up. Now I'm going to click on last and I'm going to move it up, and that just moved it up into the trainer ID header. Okay, so now we want to delete the trainer first and trainer last labels. So we have the trainer first, and this is in the page header, so we want to delete that label, and we want to delete the trainer last label. Okay, and so step C, we want to increase the size of the trainer ID header slightly. So we just want to take that trainer ID header down just a little bit. Maybe I might have taken it down too much. And we want to move the first and last text box controls so that there is one set of grid lines above and below. So I might have actually moved the wrong one, but all right, so in first we want to see, so I'm going to take that down a little more, and we want to see one row above and we want to see one row below. So I'm actually going to go back up just a little bit. All right, so now we want to draw lines in the trainer ID header section above the first and last text boxes. The line should begin at the left edge of the report, and the line should align with the right edge of the amount total. So we want to go to our design tab in our control group and click on line, and we can click at the beginning on that little gridded line, and then if you just want to drag over, and sometimes it's really hard to get that line straight, so I'm going to do it again. And so, you know, this is one area you can undo in Access. So, you know, you might have to try a couple of times to get that line straight. I am not good at dragging it over straight. So you can see it's kind of stair-stepped. So I'm going to undo it again and try yet again. You would think that it would just kind of line up straight, but I'm not going to keep playing with this. Just you want to just keep doing it until you get that line straight. So then we want to do the same thing on the bottom. So design tab, line, and we want to drop that below the first name, and we just want to drag it over to the right edge, and hopefully you can kind of get those semi-straight. Looks like I got the top one straight, but not the bottom. So keep trying until you get it straight. Okay, so step 14. With the report still in design view, we want to move the subtotal control in the trainer ID footer. So here's the trainer ID footer, and we want to move it down so that there is a row of grid lines above and below. So actually I'm going to move it up, and I see a row of grid lines above and below. And then we want to move the grand total control so that there is a row above and below on it as well. So I'm going to click there and just move it up, and I see that line above and below on it. So we want to add a line above the subtotal control in the trainer ID footer section. So again, I love these lines, but this one's not as bad because you can just click and it's long enough. And then we want to do that, let's see, and above the grand total control. So we want to come down here and do that again here. And the controls in the line should have the same length, so try to get those pretty even. And now we want to add a label to the left of the subtotal control in the trainer ID footer, and we want it to be at approximately the 5-inch mark. So if you go up here to the controls group, it's the second one, and we want to find the 5-inch mark, and I'm going to put it on that second line of grid marks, and we want to title it trainer control or trainer total. And I actually am going to click on it and just kind of line it up better with the sum control box. All right, so now we want to add a label to the left of the grand total. So again, we're just adding another label, and we want to do that at the 5-inch mark as well. And we want to call this one grand total. And I don't have this one lined up on the 5-inch mark. I don't know what I did there. Let me undo and see if I can get that fixed. It's doing something a little quirky on me. So I am going to just go back and put that label in there again. Not sure what I did to make that one mess up. Okay, so trainer total, and now I want to do another label, same place, 5-inch mark, and I'm going to call that grand total. Okay. So if you want to just kind of compare what you've done so far to figure 6, should look pretty similar to figure 6. And let's see. So move on to step 15. So with this report still open in design view, we want to do all the sections as we want to set the label and text box border style to transparent. So we want to go to, let me see, I'm trying to think of the quickest, easiest way to select all of those, but it might just be you want to hold your control key and click on each one just to make sure. So I have all of them selected, all the labels and the controls. And now I can go to the Format tab, Shape Outline. We want to just change those to transparent. And then we want to remove the alternate background from each section. So again, we can just click on each section individually and see if it gives us the option to change that. And I've almost zoomed past that one. So we want no color. Then we click on Details section, no color. Trainer ID footer, no color. And then page footer, no color. Oh, we don't have the option to change that one. And then report footer. So we're good there. All right, last step. With the billing report still open, billing by trainer report still open in design view, we want to add the title billing by trainer. So we want to go back to our design tab and we want to just click on header footer in the header footer group, and we want to click on title. My title. And I'm going to call it billing by trainer. And now we want to remove that control. So the control's over here to the left. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to center align this. So I'm going to my Format tab, I'm centering it, and then I want to add the date. So now I'm going back to my Design tab and I'm going to click on Date. And we want to choose the 4/18/2018 format, and we do not want to include the time. So uncheck the time and click OK. So now that put it over here to the right of our title. And so we want to, let's see, we want to move the control so that the right edge of the text box aligns with the right edge of the amount label. So here's the right edge. So they're both aligned. And I do want to make that smaller though. That's taking, it's kind of thrown off my the size of my header. So made that quite a bit smaller, and it's aligned with the amount box. Now we want to add a page number. So we want to go back over here to the header and footer group. We want to do page number. We want page N of M, and we want it at the bottom of the page. And it says do not change the default center alignment and do not uncheck the checkbox. So we just want to click OK. And now it says to align the right side of the page number text box with the right side of the amount label. So my amount label's over here. So I'm just going to drag this over and just kind of stop right here. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to report view. And other than having my mismatched line on the bottom, it looks like what we're supposed to see. So you should be ready to save it and submit it. If you have questions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email.